Welcome to Student Spotlight, the show where MDC students are able to apply the skills they learned through the TV program. I am your host, Melissa Alvarez. For today's show, we are discussing comics, and you will be surprised to learn who's reading them. Please give a warm welcome to Jay Sandhouse.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Jay. Thank you for being here with us today.
You got the short end of the straw drawing me with the interview.
I did, but you know what? That's great because
You get the whole interview. You get to interview me the whole time.
I do. So we're discussing comics today.
Okay, one of my favorite subjects.
You are a fanboy. Tell me about it because it really is a lifestyle, isn't it?
It's funny because you walk into a comic book store and you think you're going to see a lot of kids in there if you've never been in one, and you'll never see anybody under 13 unless they're with their family. It's really something for adults and teenagers and things like that, and it's just it's an expensive hobby.
So you'd say that the readers, they've changed, really, because I remember, I've never been a comic fan.
Okay,
we'll have to change that. Yeah, you know what, I've never really picked one up, but I'd love for you to teach me more about this world and open it up to me. And really, I've noticed that recently, more grown-up men and adults are picking up the comics. And women. And, you really don't see the kids anymore. They're glued to the TV and seeing the cartoons on TV, but they're not really reading the books. Have they changed?
There's a few different reasons for that. First of all, you still have the comics out there, the Mickey Mouse and the Archie and stuff for little kids. But they're expensive, comic books. They're about $3 a piece. So even if you're getting an allowance of $10 a week as a little kid, and that's pretty generous, it's still, 3 comic books is your whole allowance. Now, when I was younger, they were 12 cents a piece, but I was only getting, a quarter or 50 cents allowance. So comparatively, it's the same. But the writing has changed, the artwork has changed. It's not geared towards kids. The comics are on TV, the cartoons, but the reading is geared more towards adults. The people who write the comics are all, famous writers who are just going back and forth between comics and regular novels.
So tell me, how has the reading and the writing changed? Because since you're telling me that the adults are who's reading it, they've become more sexual, more violent.
Exactly, more adult themed. There's language in there. There's jokes in there. The way they're drawing some of the characters, especially the female characters in there, are more adult oriented. If you were to say to me, I have an opportunity of picking up some comics from the 1980s or so, I would say don't do
even
it.
Bother.
You would cringe with the writing and the artwork, where Batman is going, old chum, and expressions like that. It's just
the old corny expressions.
Exactly, because, as censorship has changed on television and in print, so have the comics, so now there's a lot more leeway in what they're saying in there, and it's expressed in the books and the comics and everything, so it's definitely changed more with, today.
So although they have, these adult comics, kids can pick them up. Should they be rated? Are there ratings for the comics?
There's no ratings for the comics. Should they be rated? I'm not a big fan of censorship, and there's nothing really in there. There are a lot of adult situations, where one superhero will sleep with another superhero, and there is homosexuality and lesbian superheroes in there. So in that regard, yeah, it's very adult themed. But as far as picking up one and being tainted by reading it, no, I think it's okay.
And you've been collecting since you were young, or you just started this recently?
I've been collecting for about 7 or 8 years now. I've always been into it, and when I was a little kid, I think I picked up comic books, but as far as a serious collector, it wasn't really until I started working here that I got into it. We used to do a show called Chat. It was for Telemundo, Mundos. And we had a guest one time, and he worked for the New Times Magazine, and he saw me wearing a Captain America shirt and just started telling me all of this stuff about comics. And I said, yeah, a lot of the guys are into it, and a lot of the students who were going to school here, and now like Alfred Vizcarra, who's directing the show, started saying, oh, do you read this, do you read that? And I just wasn't really reading them. One book in particular, this guy from New Times told me to read, was by Frank Miller, called The Dark Knight Returns. It's kind of a futuristic Batman story. And Frank Miller did the Sin City movie and 300 and others. And Frank Miller was a comic book writer. He still is.
And he made the transition to a movie writer.
A lot of them have been doing that. And then I read it, and it was a good story. It was a little complicated to understand. And that's kind of when I realized you just can't pick up certain comics and just start reading them from the beginning. Like if you say, I want to start reading comics today, you know, you just can't go out and buy Batman or Superman or Green Lantern and start reading it, because it's just like watching a soap opera for the first time. Well,
I am wearing my favorite cartoon character, which is Wonder Woman. And although I've never really read much of her comics, I love her because she depicts you know, female empowerment, and so I am wearing her today. So if I wanted to start reading comics and I wanted to, let's say Batman, I know that that's one of your favorite comic strips and characters, how would I go about that? Do I have to go back to the beginning and read, you know, from her start and how she started, or can I just pick up, you know, a random comic and just go from there?
Well, you know, the one thing about Wonder Woman that confuses me a little bit, it's all about Greek gods and mythology and things like that. So sometimes when you read anything or you watch a movie, let's say like Star Wars, and the people's names aren't like John and Fred and Ralph, sometimes that's a little bit difficult to follow. You know, they're making up all these names. So unless you're very familiar with the Greek gods and their stories, which it's not very difficult to pick up on that, Wonder Woman is a little rough in the beginning.
I need more of her foundation to understand where she comes from and all that. Okay.
So a lot of times what they'll do in the comic books is they'll come out with a series where they'll call it Year One, where they recreate the first year of that character's existence without actually having to go back to the 30s or the 40s to read it. You know, like a modern day spin on it.
Right. And that's why they also have, we have here a graphic novel. This is a graphic novel from Superman and Batman.
Right, it's a series, Superman and Batman.
And this is by DC, correct?
Right.
So that's one of the publications. We have DC, Marvel.
Right.
And
there's a few other Top Cow and Image. DC, which stands for Detective Comics.
Detective Comics.
And Marvel are the big two. And then there are some others with lesser titles. And a lot of the characters have their own comic books. Like Batman has 3 different comic books. And then Superman has about 3. Wonder Woman has one of her own. Green Lantern, a few like that. So it's based on their popularity.
So tell me a little bit about the graphic novels. The graphics in here are amazing. It's beautiful, the artwork in here. So we have the writers, amazing graphic artists. And how do we come about producing the graphic novel?
Well, comic books come out every month, a title. And it's they come out every Wednesday, you know, where the DVDs and CDs come out every Tuesday, you know.
Right.
Comic book day is Wednesday.
So all the fanboys run over to get the new issue?
Well, that's when they come in. And if you go to a comic book shop, you can have a subscription service, which they put the ones aside for you that they tell you, get 10% off. And they're sitting there waiting for you, so you don't have to run over.
So that's something really interesting. There actually is, going back to the founding of comic books, there weren't comic stores. You would have to, you know, pick
go to the drugstore,
and they would have them at the drugstore.
Right, on the newsstands and things like that. And comic book stores, I'm fortunate, there's one by where I live, it's called Tate's, which is like...
You're like club membership
the Mecca of comic book stores. But every month there's the new titles come out. You know, so for example, this one is Batman and Superman. They're together. So this will come out, you know, in May, June, July, and August. And it's a ongoing story, which they call an arc. And then it could be 2 issues, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 12. So of course, if it's 12 issues, the whole story's going on for the year. When the run is over and the arc is finished, they'll put it in a book like this, and they call this a graphic novel. So if you buy it this way, it's less money, and it's packaged nice. This one is hardcover, but a lot of them are softcover. And they package the story in here.
You can hold it up for our viewers to see it.
Just tilt it down so we don't get the light on it. And you have there, and then they put some extra stuff in the back there and things like that.
So you do get a bonus,
yeah,
you know,
if you want to buy it that way.
Okay.
And then this way, if you don't want to spend the money and go for it every single month, then you can just wait till it comes out in graphic novel form, and then you buy it in the book like this. This book here is a hardcover, so it was $19.99.
Oh, so you've had it for some time.
Yeah, and you can also buy it less, maybe on, you know, through with the internet or something, but
like
it's
Amazon
the retail price, right?
Like
but in the bookstores, it's the set price.
Okay.
And some people, and when I first started collecting, this is what I was doing. I was just buying graphic novels to get caught up on the characters. And then after that, then, you know, once you get the feel and you're caught up, then you do the monthly thing.